come to God moment, as they say. I made a big mistake that kind of left me in like a lot of trouble, left me in a really dark spot. And then the next day, my dad was like, "Yo, bro, you got to go to church. You got to go back to church."
Hey guys, welcome back to Keeping It 99, here with another episode. And today I'm joined with a very special guest, Mr. Andrew Heaton. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, bro, great to be here. We tried to get it in last week. I got some sort of stomach bug or something, bro. Couldn't get it in, but dude, we're here now, ready to go. Let's get it.
Exactly, we're here now, man. That's what matters.
Yes, sir.
So today we're going to be talking about, faith and fitness, as the title says. Very interesting topic, and kind of how, fitness plays a role into faith, and faith plays a role into fitness. So my first question for you is, why do you work out?
Well, dude, that's kind of a hard question, and there's a big story behind it. I'll give you the summary though. But dude, all throughout, this might be a little corny, bro. I feel like every gym bro has the same origin story, But all throughout middle school, I like this one girl, bro. I'm not gonna dox her, but 'cause you probably know her. But and dude, you knew me in middle school. I was a little chunky. I was definitely not in shape. I was athletic, but I wasn't I didn't have a good physique per se. You know what I mean? So just kept on for the last 7th and 8th grade, just kept on trying to work it out to be with her, right? And I finally shot my shot in 8th grade towards the end of the year, and she was like, "No, I've yada yada yada, it wouldn't work out," some shit like that, right? But then I found out from her friend that it was because I was too fat to be with her, and that shit just it hit me pretty hard, and I was like, well, dude, how can somebody say that about somebody? Is this true? Am I too fat to be with a girl or something like that? Right. And obviously, bro, I mean, if you're fat, you can still find love, right? That's not what I'm trying to say, but it just kind of sparked something inside of me that was well, dude, it's kind of your fault that you're like this, you know what I mean? No one's gonna come and save you. You gotta kind of work for it yourself. So I spent that the whole summer, because I played football for Pope freshman year, and I think we went 1-8. It wasn't fun, but I spent that whole summer going to all the football workouts, studying and researching things about the body, how to get into a calorie deficit, foods to eat to be in a calorie deficit, stuff like that. And it just slowly started becoming my life, you know what I mean? By the time school had started, 2019, our freshman year, it was just kind of all I cared about at that point, bro. I was seeing a lot of progress. People were coming up to me being "Yo, dang, bro, what happened?" And I mean, obviously, that felt good, kind of little ego boost, but yeah, dude, then I didn't actually start lifting until October of our freshman year, bro, because before that I was just researching everything on the diet side, and I was doing a lot of running, a lot of cardio, stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about actual weight training. And I'll never forget it was our fall break, the Friday of our fall breaks, when I got my membership at Just Fitness. And yeah, dude, I just started lifting, loved it, and made it a habit. And it's people always talk about having trouble wanting to go to the gym, finding that motivation, bro. For me, it was never like that. I just the second I started doing it, I loved it, and I knew that it was going to be a big part of my life for the rest of my life, bro. And it's really just grown from there and become more of something that I wanted to do into more of a lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Dang, that's a good story. I like that.
Dude,
and it really shows kind of how you take those negative things, even if it's something petty like that,
yeah,
and you turn it into something so positive that's changed the entire course of your life and who you are.
Dude,
I mean,
absolutely.
I remember in 8th grade.
Yeah.
I thought you were pretty strong. Not gonna lie, I thought you were pretty big. That was for compared to other scrawny 8th graders at the time.
Yeah.
And obviously now, I mean, it's not even comparable. So you've done a great job. I'm sure you've heard that a million times.
Well, I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. It's funny, because when I was in 8th grade, you said, you thought I was strong or whatever, bro. But I wanted to be like this, the other skinny kids. I didn't want to be the way that I was, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always you want to be what you're not.
Exactly. I mean, the grass isn't always greener on the other side,
yeah,
as they say. But I mean, it worked out, And like you said, dude, if I had to go back and do it any different, I wouldn't. You know what I mean? I would do everything exactly the same. It all happened for a reason. I feel that was God behind the scenes just kind of tweaking and making little adjustments to make me the man that I am today. And, I'm sure 10 years from now, I'm sure I'll have more, moments like that, more, even mess ups, bro, that'll kind of make me the man that I am then. So, shoot, I mean, I guess let's just keep living, right? That's all you can do.
Yeah, and on the topic of God, like, obviously, faith is a big part of your life. So kind of walk me through that. Like, how did that become a thing?
Dude, so it's funny because like even like probably when you knew me in middle school and even really up until my sophomore year, like I was not like a religious guy at all. Like I wouldn't say that I was very religious. Like I went to church, kind of like grew up in the church, you could say, but I never really had like a real like faith of my own. It was more so like my parents' faith, you could even say, just them kind of like bringing us to church with them, me and my little brother. But my parents got divorced 7th grade, and we stopped going to church, right? And we didn't go back until I did pretty much our sophomore year. But yeah, kind of like through that time period, from like 7th grade to sophomore year, like as I kind of grew, like into like my body, I got like bigger, I got stronger, right? I got like a lot more physically appealing to like women, you could say. Like that led me down like a road of making a lot of like mistakes with girls, bro, and like doing a lot of things I wish I could take back, going to a couple of parties I wish I could take back, and like making some mistakes with like drugs and alcohol, and I mean really just a lot of girls, a lot of like lustful mistakes, that I wish I could take back. And that kind of led me down like a super dark path, bro, because like freshman and sophomore year, like how I was saying, like I was getting like big, I was getting jacked, and like girls saw that, you know what I mean? So I definitely kind of took advantage of it. But I mean, yeah, dude, one night sophomore year had a big like come to God moment, as they say. I made a big mistake that kind of left me in like a lot of trouble, left me in a really dark spot. And then the next day my dad was like, yo, bro, you got to go to church. You got to go back to church. And I was like, oh, I really don't want to, but all right, whatever, Dad, I'll do it, Then I go to East Cobb Church. It was like the first Sunday that they had Inside Out at that church. Inside Out's just like the high school ministry at the church I go to. But it was great, dude. I went in there. I met Nick Wiedemann. He was the IO director. He actually just left last week. But I met him. I met my small group leaders, Miller and Rory. And yeah, dude, I just kind of like fell in love with it. Like I just met those guys. I felt like super welcomed. And then I just started going back and back and back after like every Sunday. And like I started to kind of like rebuild like my faith, or kind of like create it for the first time, you could even say. Like I started like becoming more active in prayer life, started reading my Bible a lot more, started trying, like I kind of started like kind of feeling like the Holy Spirit work in me, in like the sense that the things I used to like want to do, like I used to want to go out and drink and do drugs and smoke and like have sex with these girls, right? But like I stopped like wanting to do that as I became like closer and closer with God. And then we went on like a retreat that summer for a week. It's called Daytona. We spent like a week in Daytona Beach in Florida. And dude, it was great. It was very like eye-opening, really just like experiencing God's presence for the first time. There was like thousands of kids just like worshiping, and then like hundreds even like giving their life to God for the first time. And it's just like such a powerful feeling. And that's like, for me, that's when it became real. That's when I was kind of like, all right, this is real. This is something I want to do. This is something that like I want to be a big part of my life for the rest of my life. And ended up getting baptized that August. Got it yadded on me, but I started leading a middle school group in my church too. A couple months after that, transit kids, love them. Transit's like the middle school ministry, is what it's called. But yeah, I guess that's also kind of like the abbreviated short summary of my testimony, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's always great to hear those types of stories as someone who, like for myself, like I've grown up in the church and I haven't really, like fallen out of the church per se. Like I've always, been at church, I've always been very focused on my faith. Yeah. So it's always great to hear those stories of people who kind of, kind of like lost God and then like, go back to him. And I think, when you were saying like you kind of lost a desire to do those like worldly things. Yeah. It brings up, like a very interesting point that, Satan, like what is he? He's like the king of liars. Yeah, exactly. Right. He's always trying to mimic, what God would do. Like if I was Satan, what I would do is I'd try to, mimic what God is, because he's perfect. Mm-hmm. So Satan does the same thing. That's what he does. And, through all these things that like fulfill you for a few moments. Yeah. And then it's like, once you experience what it is really like to be fulfilled, you don't want it. Like, it's almost like you're like, man, what was I thinking?
Right, exactly.
Like that stuff is not, it's not really like what edifies you.
Yeah. It's like, dude, fulfillment from God is so much different than like fulfillment from worldly things. You know what I mean? Like you could even make the argument that you don't get fulfillment from worldly things, but I mean, it's like I felt like some sort of fulfillment from worldly things. Like lifting is obviously like a worldly thing. Like I don't think, I mean, yeah, like you know, when in heaven, I don't know if there's gonna be gyms, bro. Like, I mean, we'll see, but yeah, I mean that's worldly fulfillment in a sense, but then like the fulfillment you get from God is a totally different feeling. You know, like those who have felt it can attest to it. You know.
Yeah, it's almost something that you like can't explain, and it's even for me
definitely.
who, I've always been going to church. I've always been in my faith. It's like there are times where it's just kind of like going through the motions, right? And that was for a big portion of my life. It was just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And then once I started taking it seriously, like you realize like how deep God really is and how deep your faith can really get. And it's almost like every step you take forward, it's like you don't want to go back anymore.
Yeah.
Even if you do fall back, you're like, man, I just want to get back to where I was.
Right. And like when you do fall back, bro, it's like the conviction that you can get like from the Holy Spirit can like help you get back to where you need to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, I mean, I mess up all the time. We all, sin, fall short, whatever. But it's like after I do, just knowing that like, God still loves you, right? That can make all the difference in the world because you can just easily just kind of get back to where you were before. No harm, no foul. You know what I mean? Forgiveness. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, kind of linking that to fitness, it's almost in the same way. I mean, I know for myself, like I've been in this cycle of like going to the gym, not going to the gym, going to the gym, not going to the gym, kind of this like in and out type of thing. But it's like there's no better feeling than like consistently going.
Yeah, dude. No, it's like, like I was kind of talking about earlier, bro. It's like, I always hear, like people always ask me like, yo, bro, how do you like find the motivation to go to the gym every day? And it's just like, dude, I don't know. For me, it was never really like that. For me, that was like the easy part, and obviously, dude, we're all different. Like, I'm not trying to hate on you at all for being like semi-inconsistent or whatever, bro. Because like, you're doing better than 99% of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is awesome. But I mean, dude, I feel like for me, the biggest, and this might be kind of weird, but I feel for me, the biggest like driving force has been like kind of trying to get myself involved with the fitness industry, like not trying to be like an influencer or whatever, but just like seeing other influencers kind of like living a life that like I would love to live. That kind of like motivates me to be like, all right, you know what, if I go and I lift like they're doing, you know what, maybe that's something that'll happen to me in the future. You know what I mean? But I mean, I don't think that's like a life that I would want, bro. Like cameras on them at all times, bro. I mean, it's cool, like the like the sponsorships and the the outings, whatever you want to call it, bro. But I mean, it's not for everybody. But I just kind of use them as motivators, and everybody kind of has like guys they look up to. I feel like so if you find like the right guys and like at least in like the fitness space, then I feel like it'll be a lot easier to stay like motivated. But I mean, obviously at the end of the day, like the discipline is kind of what's gonna get you. But having motivation makes it a lot easier, bro.
Yeah, I feel you, and I can kind of relate to that. When it comes to like a podcasting sense.
Yeah.
Obviously there's podcasts I look up to, and I'm like, man, like I wish I could be kind of like them, at that level. So I think it's one of the most important things is having role models, that push you to continue in what you want to do. Yeah. But I think more importantly is like surrounding yourself with people that have the same goal in mind. Yeah, so absolutely. How have you kind of found, that journey of kind of surrounding yourself with people, who want to, lift and, stay true to their faith?
Dude, that's like such a huge factor that I think people don't really like. It's like, I don't think people really think of it much, bro. It's just like having a strong community can make everything so much easier, bro. Like, I mean, a lot of my like closest friends I've found like through church, and it's nice because a lot of them lift too, so we can like lift together, and then we can like see each other on Sundays and glorify God, and we keep each other like accountable. We have like accountability group chats, bro, where we're like if one of us like faps or something like that, we'll just kind of like crap on them, but then we'll be like, nah, bro, it's okay, we still love you, God still loves you, but just be better, stuff like that really just makes it a lot easier to conquer some of these like worldly desires. You know what I mean? Like when you're surrounded by there's a verse in the Bible, I totally forgot what it was, but it's like when you surround yourself with people that are like-minded like you, it becomes so much easier to like achieve the goal because it's a common goal between everybody in the group. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it really does, like, it really portrays kind of, if you look at like the first couple chapters of the book of Acts, you know, and then you see the word, like the phrase "in one accord" multiple times, and it's kind of like, you know, when everyone's in the body of Christ, looking at the same goal, pushing for the same thing, it only makes that, you know, way stronger. You know, there's so many examples. Like one that comes to mind for me is the moving of the Mount El-Muqattam in Egypt, where, you know, there was this kind of like group of like religious leaders within Egypt, between the Islam, Christian, and Jewish world, and one of the Islamic leader called the Christian leader out and said, "Hey, you know, it says in the Bible, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain." And they needed to like make a road through the mountain or something. So like, why don't you move this mountain? Yeah. And you know, the Pope at the time called upon the entire church and praying and fasting, and the mountain was, you know, through the grace of God, ended up being moved. Really? And it comes from that same mindset where it's like everyone has this common goal to defend their faith, you know, to show that Christ is real, that the power of God is real. Yeah. And it's like when everyone has that goal in mind, I mean, you can do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly, bro. It's like, I mean, it's like, God, another verse that I totally forgot.
Sorry, one second.
Talking about, like, you know, the part in the Bible, story in the Bible where, you know, the mountains moved in Egypt, which is very cool. I actually wasn't even familiar with that story.
It's not in the Bible, but
Is
it's
it in the Quran?
No. It's in something the Coptic Church calls the Synaxarion.
Oh, cool.
It's just like a story. It is a real event that happened. Yeah. But yeah, so it's way after the Bible. I mean, this is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know exactly when, but it's very, like later.
Semi-recent.
Yeah. I would say
cool.
it's. I'll put the date on the screen. I don't actually know when, but it's.
That's awesome though, bro. That's really cool. But it's like I always think of it's Second Peter 3:15, and it's like always give a reason for your hope, right? And you were talking about like always like defending your faith, right? And that's something that I've become like really, really interested in the last like couple of months or so, because I have a lot of friends that are atheists, and like, dude, I'm not gonna hate them because of that, bro. Like some of my closest friends are atheists, right? And like, do I wish they were Christian and right with God? Absolutely. But I'm not gonna like hate on them because they're not, like, because I've had phases like that in my life, bro. You know what I mean? But it's like that's something I've been really, really interested in lately, is like kind of trying to find the answers to like the questions that they have, bro. Because I mean, the answers are out there. You know, you just gotta look. You just gotta like devote yourself to looking for them, right? And like big things that come up are like evolution versus creation, and like the universe, the vastness of the universe, and where God stands in that. And I don't know. Theology is so interesting because it's so deep. There's so many levels to it. Yeah. You know, like I mean, I'm definitely going to go through some sort of seminary school, I think, after college, because it's just something I'm so interested in. But I mean, I think it's just so cool how deep everything is, bro. And like always like having an answer to support your faith. I think it's just something super important, especially as like young men of God, like, because we're going to be like, our faiths are, it's going to be tested, especially throughout college, bro, throughout, you know, different kinds of life science classes, be biology, even like, dude, I'm taking like astronomy right now, and like they were like trying to teach us the earth formed from like clumps of dust clumping together over billions and billions of years, right? And I mean, it's just it's kind of crazy to me that people can believe that, right? Like I try to be relatively like open-minded, like obviously I believe what I believe, but I try to understand why people believe what they believe. But I mean, it's just some of these things just don't like. It's like, what are you thinking? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's actually, you know, the world of apologetics, theology, comparative theology. It's honestly one of the most interesting things to me, and I really, really enjoy reading, kind of about like, you know, like defending the faith, answers to the faith, and I'm just so lucky and so glad that I was born and raised in the Coptic Church. You know, one of the oldest form of Christianity there is. Where, you know, we can trace our line of popes straight back to St. Mark. Yeah. You know, so it's great because there's so many stories about, you know, people defending the faith and giving answers, and, you know, there's just so much, you know, just so much stuff to it. And like you said, you know, when people say these things and you're just kind of like, how do they believe it? Mm-hmm. One of the great arguments for why, like, God's existence is the question, what happens if God doesn't exist?
Yeah.
You know, Because if you think about it like that, the same way like the dust kind of like clumping together and forming, by saying that the dust clumps together and forms earth, doesn't necessarily mean that God did not make that happen.
It's like, who made the dust, bro?
Exactly, because and it's not even that. It's like we don't like God. It doesn't say how. It just says God said, let there be land in heaven.
Light.
Exactly. Let there be light. Let there be land in heaven. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say how exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't say how long it took. It doesn't it says 7 days, but obviously, God's above time.
Exactly.
So the only way we can understand it is within time.
Yeah.
And as humans, like the number 1 billion, we physically cannot understand. That's been proven throughout many studies, like 1 million seconds versus 1 billion seconds.
Yeah.
I think 1 million seconds brings you to like you're like 32 years old or something, and 1 billion seconds is like way past your lifetime, like extremely past it, And it's like a lot of people like they can't picture what 1 billion years is.
Yeah.
They can't like put it in their head. So like why would God go in the Bible and say, 1 billion or 10 billion or 15 billion?
Exactly.
Because we won't understand that.
And that's why, like in the Bible, I don't think the word billion is used once.
Oh yeah, it's not at all.
And it's like, and also what's cool about the Bible is since it's literally a historical document. Everything is testable and provable. It's like we can literally use the Bible to like give an estimate to how old the earth actually is, and it's in the thousands. It's not even in the millions. If you like look at biblical references and like they go down like family lines and stuff like that, family tree. But you were talking about like, all right, what if God doesn't exist? And like for me, the biggest thing is like, look, if there is no God, then like there is no purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude, if the only reason we are on this earth right now in this room having this conversation is because clumps of dust formed together and some sort of chemical storm occurred on earth that produced some sort of one organism being or one cell being, which evolved over time into eventually humans, then like, dude, realistically we're just like a product of billions of years of good luck. I feel like there's more faith required to believe that than there is to believe in a creator of the universe, like a divine designer, right? Like you said God is an omnipresent being. Time does not like apply to him. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just so interesting. There's so many discussions we could have about that, bro. It's it's crazy. Like, dude, if there's no God, then why is there like a moral law? Like, why is it that like you can go anywhere and like the brutal murder of like children it's bad everywhere? You know what I mean? Like, that's just not something that's bad in America. It's something that you could go to Russia, that'd be bad. China, that'd be bad. Like that would leave most of the population feeling like bad for that person. Like that's like a moral law, like an earthly moral law. You know what I mean? Like, where did that come from? Like, why would there be a moral law if we're all just beings that evolved from nothing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, there's countless examples. You can talk about the complexity of just your eye.
Yeah. Dude.
There's no way there's no way that many things have to go right in the series of evolution. Yeah. Of whatever human evolution is to get to your eye. Mm-hmm. Just your eye. Like if you just took the eye of the first organisms and you look at that, like it is a crazy so difference. Yeah. And the changes that are made are so specific and so perfect. Yeah. And it just like it doesn't make sense how people can believe that it gets perfect like that at that many chances.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, dude, after how many times does like a coincidence not become a coincidence? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's cool, bro. There's just so many like arguments, so many points you can make. Like I've been watching like a lot of like atheists and like evolutionists versus creationist debates, basically kind of stuff like that. Kent Horvath, he's a really cool guy. He's kind of older now, but like back in he was his like 30s and 40s and 50s, he was like devoting his life to like creationism and really just devoting his life to God and making like the ties between science and God. Because like a common like argument among like atheists is like if science exists, then there can't be God. Like God and religion, or like religion and science cannot coexist. That's what they say. But it's like I feel like without one, you couldn't have the other. You know what I mean? Like without God, there would be no science. right? So there's so many points you could make, but
Yeah, I mean, every single thing that we've so far learned as truths in science back up the existence of God.
right,
There hasn't been anything that's been proven true that kind of says like, oh, God cannot be real.
Yeah.
Because he's just so beyond that.
yeah,
And another point that you could, it's a very easy point to make is like, if you can understand what created everything, that would make you God. And that means that you can dictate what happens, but we can't. We can't control the weather. Yeah. We understand almost everything about the weather, and we cannot control it.
Yeah.
So obviously that means that it's not something understandable. It has to be something that you can understand.
Yeah.
And it's so much more comfortable to put your faith in something you can't understand.
Absolutely.
Why would you want to put your faith in something you can understand?
Yeah, it's like, dude, one of my leaders, Rory, a couple weeks ago in the group, he brought up this quote. I don't remember who it was by, but it was like, a God that would be understandable wouldn't be a God worth believing in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, dude, like, we're never going to know why God made seals, for example. We're never going to know why God made thousands of different plants and trees and thousands of different bugs and insects, right? Like, you might think, from, like, the human brain perspective, like, well, that's pointless. Like, why would he do that, right? But, I mean, that's the thing is, like, dude, God has done so much that, we can't comprehend. I think it's because we don't need to comprehend it. Like, I feel like through the Bible, God kind of gave us everything that, as human beings, we need to know in order to get to heaven, right? Like, there's a lot of questions, right, that are still left unanswered. But, like, I mean, you pretty much, like, got everything you need, right? Like, Jesus came, the Son of God. He died on the cross for the sins of the world. He resurrected 3 days later. If you believe that, you're going to heaven, right? Like, that kind of trumps everything, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, obviously questions can stem from that, but I mean, if you believe that, you're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree 100%. And I think, like, if you believe that through the wisdom of the church, like, through that lens, that the church gives us, like, I mean, there's just questions that you don't need to answer. Like, do aliens exist?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like God is only going to give us what pertains to us becoming eternal with Him. Yeah. There's nothing else that's important. And it like reminds you of like the story or the example that Christ gave of like, are not 2 sparrows sold for 5 copper coins.
Yeah.
But your God, your Father, like provides for them.
Yeah.
Like they're worthless, literally worthless. And God provides for them, gives them food, gives them stuff to do. Like God clothing the lily, like every single flower, like they're going to become gone. They're going to go like this.
Yeah.
But He spends the time designing each and every single one of them.
Yeah.
Each and every single snowflake has a different design. There are no 2 snowflakes that are alike.
That's crazy. It's like,
and they're gone like this.
Yeah. And if He does all that for those things, like it says, like later in the verse you were talking, like, how much more does He love you?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, think about as humans. Think about all the gifts that we have, bro. Like, not only are we fed, not only are we clothed, but like, dude, the emotions that we feel, right? The love that we experience, like even like the guilt. Like, I feel like I've kind of gotten to a point in my faith where like, and I'm just like, this is like really, for me, this is really good. But it's like, I thank God, I'm just as grateful for like the good moments as I am for the bad moments. You know what I mean? Because once you get like that full trust in God, that divine trust, it's like you realize that in the bad moments, like he's almost trying to teach you something in a sense. You know what I mean? Like we talked about earlier, like some of the worst moments of my life have led to some of the best moments of my life, right? And if He did it once, I know He can do it again. So, and obviously good moments are good moments, right? I always love those. But
and think about it, like, like first off, Christ never said it would be easy. He said it would be hard. He said You'd be persecuted. And if Christ, we're in the season of Lent in the church, and if Christ was tempted by Satan, and He had to fast for 40 days, and He didn't have food or water, and as a Coptic Christian, we believe that Christ is fully divine and fully human, so He felt the human effects.
Yeah, He felt
of
the temptation,
not eating for 40 days and being tempted. And He's God, so as Satan, the 3 temptations He gave Christ, like if Christ Himself is going to be tempted, if God Himself, the incarnate God, is going to become tempted by Satan, obviously we are.
Right.
And obviously we're going to go through tough times, and obviously we're going to fall because we're not perfect like Him.
Yeah.
Obviously we're going to fall. Obviously we're going to mess up. And it's like, you know, it's more important about how do you go back to God in those moments. And I think a lot of times, this is something that actually like fitness helps with.
Yeah.
You know, is like, you know, it's the hardest thing to do is right after you sin, pray to God. It is hands down the hardest thing to do.
You feel so guilty, bro.
Yeah, you feel so guilty.
Unworthy
Yeah.
of even speaking with God.
Exactly. And one thing that helps with that, very ironically, is like working out, because you can like kind of use it to like get it off your mind and still worship God with your body.
Definitely.
You know, and then right after be like, hey God, you know, whatever.
Right. That's like one thing that I've really tried to, that's one thing I've really been working on, is how I can like somehow find a way to glorify God through fitness, right? Because dude, like, I'll be honest, pretty like, at least in my case, the only thing that has really came from fitness is just a lot of pride. You know what I mean? A lot of pride. And I mean, it's like that, I think, with most people, you know, that actively like work out, right? And so I've been trying to like somehow find a way to tie God into my fitness life. You know what I mean? Because I mean, he belongs everywhere. I believe he belongs everywhere in every aspect of your life, right? And it's really hard because obviously I love working out. I love lifting, dude. It's like, I would say it's probably my second biggest priority, right under God, of course. But like, because I don't want to stop. Obviously, I don't want to stop working out, right? But I love God. I want him to be in every aspect of my life. So there's got to be some sort of way I can like tie it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think like, you know, the answer to that is more of like making God the center of your life. Like making all things point towards God. A lot of people are like, how can I make God the center of my studying? Like, you do it for the glory of God. You don't do it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I working out? Because, you know, God's children need to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, God's children need to be
True.
presentable. God's children, you know, need to have discipline.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many things you can come up with of like, you know, why God's children need to have this. Because as God's children, we're called to be lighthouses to God.
Yeah.
Right? We're supposed to, you know what lighthouses do? Like, lighthouses reflect the light back. So it's like, we get the light from God. It's like kind of like the sun and the moon. Like, we're the moon.
Yeah.
The moon doesn't have its own light. It reflects the light of the sun onto the earth. So in the same way, like, we need to reflect the light of God onto earth. Mm-hmm. So we need to take care of our bodies. We need to, and that's why, like, you know, it's great to worship God. It's great to, you know, pray to God all the time. But you, like, that's one half of it. The personal side is one half of it, right? You have to show God to the others.
Yeah.
You know, you have to take care of your body. You have to, you know, preach God to the people around you, not be scared about it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've realized, you know, by starting this podcast where, like, I've always been confident in my faith. I've always spread it. I haven't really cared what people thought about it, you know, because I know it's true and I know that's what I believe in.
Right.
You know, but I've realized for other people, I've had, you know, a lot of people come up to me, actually, someone from Walton texted me last night, come up to me and be like, hey man, like, you know, like how, where did you get that from? Like, where did you get that confidence to talk about your faith from? Like, always scared to talk about it. And it's like, the common theme is like, make God the center. Yeah. Like, focus on God. Like, if God is like, you're doing my work, good servant, why do you care about, you know, whatever who is saying?
Says,
you know, even if, and you will, like, the worst part is you will lose friends. Yeah. Like, I've lost so many friends since starting this podcast.
Really?
You know? Yeah, because it's like I say stuff people don't like and whatever and all that stuff. Yeah. You know, so, but it's like, I'm not doing it for myself. And that's the point you make, where it's like, if I was doing it for myself, what would I talk about if I was doing this podcast for myself? I'd talk about girls, drugs, and getting money. And that's all I would talk about. Yeah. You know, instead of edifying topics, you know, that I feel like would bring people closer to God and myself closer to God. You know, so if I do it for God and I do it for the sake of bringing myself to God, bringing others to God, but that's making God the center of my podcast and of my life. You know, so I think in the same way for lifting, it's like, do you do it for attention? Do you do it to get girls? Do you do it, you know, just to think that you're better than everyone? Or do you do it to kind of show people that, you know, like, this is what God wants. God wants you to be fit. God wants you to be, you know, like, presentable, look good. You know, God wants you to be happy in who you are and, like, secure in, like, your body. You know, so it really is just about, I think about motivate, like, your intention, of, like, what you're doing your stuff for.
Yeah, and it's like there's a verse in, I think it's Second Timothy, I think, and basically, yeah, it's basically just pretty much saying exactly what you just said. That like our bodies are like, as like humans, we are made like in God's image,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, obviously, you want to treat your body as healthily as you can, right? Because your body is a gift from God. That's something I believe, right? And yeah, you made a good point, bro. It's like I mean, I know, but I believe the exact same thing. It's like the God does belong in the center of your life, and that's like the best way to, get life right. As like they say that in our church a lot, but it's like it makes sense because if God is like it says it in Matthew, like seek first the kingdom of heaven, right, and all else will be given to you. So like, and it's so true because dude, if you're living life trying to glorify God, everything else is gonna fall into place. Like your relationships, you're gonna be much happier. You're gonna have much more peace in living. I mean, even like, in the gym, you're not gonna be like angry when you're lifting. You're gonna be happy, and you'll see more results from that. And it's like any little thing that like kind of would usually like tick you off in life. It's just gonna be like a fly on the windshield. You know what I mean? It's just like all right, whatever. Next, right? But yeah, no, that's cool. But that's definitely something that I struggle with is like thinking about like, all right, well, why am I lifting? Am I doing it to glorify the flesh or am I doing it to glorify God? Right. And I mean, for me, I'm going to be honest, dude, it is like pretty much glorifying the flesh. And like, I'm trying to change. I'm like actively trying to change that and find a way to glorify God through, my physique and my body. Like Alex Eubank is a guy who does it like really well. He's a fitness influencer.
Yeah.
He's a Christian. I think he's very, he's a very godly man. And he's definitely somebody that I look up to in a sense in that way. But it's funny because you look at like most other fitness influencers, like all they do is like they drink, they do like a lot of drugs, they go out, they party, they club, they get with a lot of chicks, bro. Right? And it's like they are glorified by the world. They're glorified by like the fitness community, and like middle schoolers and high schoolers like want to be like that, right? But like there's no real fulfillment in that, you know what I mean? And it's like sure they're cool guys, they look sick, they have great physiques, right? But it's like, I mean, dude, behind the scenes, I bet they are not like that happy. You know what I mean, bro? It's like, cause I feel like, dude, like looking back like on my life, dude, like I don't know how I got like as far as I did in life without like having a relationship with God, bro. Like I don't know how I wasn't just like sad and depressed all the time, bro. Cause like a life without God is a life without hope. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to like, what Satan is, like deception.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
deceiving yourself. And like the reason why Satan can never come back to, to God is he created the deception and he believes in that deception.
Yeah.
If you believe in this false reality, like there's no hope.
Yeah.
You're stuck in this false world, just like all these people that we've been talking about. And it's like, it is really sad to see. And, when you say like seek first the kingdom of God, like if you look back at your life and you look back at the times where you were struggling the most, or the times where like, like you felt like you were kind of missing something.
Yeah.
Like you were not seeking first the kingdom of God. And you look at the best moments in your life, you definitely were.
Yeah.
It's like this pattern keeps happening, and it's like, well, like how much more do we need to see in order to believe in it?
Exactly.
And it's the same question the disciples asked Christ, like, why come now? Why didn't you come whatever, whenever, or the parable of the poor man and the rich man.
Yeah.
When the rich man was in hell and the poor man was in heaven, and the rich man asked Abraham, can you permit the poor man to go tell my brothers that, like hell and heaven is real, and like to change your ways and to not be greedy? And Abraham was like, if what already they've seen hasn't convinced them, a dead person's not going to convince them. It's the same thing. It's like if all of this, depression and anxiety and all these things that don't fulfill you, if that doesn't show you, nothing will.
Yeah, exactly. And like, dude, like you were saying, like the world itself is evil. Like the world has fallen. Like that's biblical. That's why heaven's a thing, right? If earth was perfect, it would be heaven, And like when you think about evil, like that's what like Satan is. Satan is like evil, I believe. At least everything wrong with the world is like a result of sin.
Yeah.
You can kind of look, man, you look all the way back through history, and it's like that, But I think what's so cool is like, I mean, I believe God has the power over sin, right? So I mean, I believe if he wanted to, man, he could snap his fingers like that. All of sin would be erased. But like knowing that God is like a loving God and a caring God, right? Giving us free will and the freedom to choose whether to follow him or not, right? Knowing that like, all right, there's reward in that, there is heaven in that, and there's also like, all right, if you don't, you're going to hell, right? That's end of discussion, right? But I mean, I feel like it's like kind of like you were saying, bro. It's like if you've gone through your whole life and you have chosen not to believe in God, then I mean, dude, like obviously some things can change that. Some people like I've heard stories of people that were atheists their whole lives until like the last years of their lives, bro.
Yeah.
And they finally came to God, which is great, very cool. But it's like if you die young and you've gone your whole life denying God, I mean, that's on you. Like that was your choice, right? And maybe you were a great guy, maybe you were not a good guy, but I mean that doesn't change where you're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, like as humans, obviously we don't know who's gonna, like, God can say, God decides who goes and who doesn't go, right? He's a merciful and just God, so
Yeah,
it's up to him, really. But like you're saying, like the free will thing, like the only way as humans that we can fully love God is if we're given the choice to love God, because love is a choice. You know, we have this, especially now, this big notion that love is love, love is a feeling, it's an emotion. It's not. Like, it just really isn't. True love is a choice, you know? So I think that's a very important distinction that, you know, a lot of people kind of forget and, you know, lose sight of.
Yeah, definitely, bro. Definitely. It's one of those things, bro. Like that. Love is another one of those things I feel like that could be attributed to the existence of God, right? Because if you think about it, dude, if we form from clumps of dust, then why are we like overtaken with like strong feelings of love for like loved ones or even like girls that we like, you know, but like family, you know, stuff like that.
And it's weird because like the chemical for love and happiness and drugs and sex, and it's all the same chemical. So there's no way, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no way it's just scientific.
Yeah.
There has to be a mind, or in the Greek,
creation.
or like in Greek, it's called like the nous, like the eyes of the heart, you know? Like there has to be something outside of our physical body.
Yeah.
Not like controlling us, but like you get what I'm saying? Like something that we can control that's outside of our physical body. Like it's not just our brain.
Yeah.
We have a mind or a nous or whatever you want to call it. So that by itself has to prove that there's a spirit. And if there's a spirit, that's not a science thing. You know, that's got to be, you know, got to prove that God exists, you know?
Yeah. And it's like heaven's another like really, really interesting point. I was watching this sermon by, what was his name? Lee Strobel. And he wrote all these books about like the case for Christ, the case for heaven, the case for creation. It's like a series of books. They're really, really interesting. But he was saying that like people have like out of consciousness experiences, or like, I'm not sure the exact word for it, but they'll be like clinically dead.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, and like they'll have like conscious, like their consciousness will still be like alive in them, and their like brain will still be like operating and functioning, and they'll have like Christ like experience. They'll have like experiences of like seeing God in heaven or seeing like loved ones in heaven, being like, it's true, it's all true, you know, stuff like that. And I think that's also another thing that's like really powerful and like proving the existence of God, right? And like it's just more like evidence to prove it, right? And if you choose, knowing all of the evidence to choose that there is no God, then I mean, you know, that's on you, bro. Like you're going to hell.
Yeah, and going on that point of what you just said of like, you know, like people having these post-life experiences, I actually had an author of a book called Orthodox Afterlife on my podcast up here if you haven't watched it. And like we talked about this thing, you know, his entire book is about people having experiences post-life, proving, you know, what the Orthodox Christian, you know, what we say, you know, that what's it called? Like, I guess like after you live, the afterlife. And there's a very specific, detailed story. It's at the end of the book, it's in like the appendix, and it's just like, it's so real.
Yeah.
You know, what we believe in Christ and death and eternal life and all this stuff. So, you know, is really interesting, and it's definitely a must read. If you want the link to that book, it's in that podcast. So you have to watch the podcast to get the link. But yeah, thank you, Andrew, for coming
Absolutely,
on the podcast.
Bro. Absolutely. It was great, dude. Glad I could come on here, dude. See what this is all about, bro. I've been kind of following it for like a year now. I watched the one with Waka Flocka, bro, which is crazy. Y'all had him on. That's sick.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, I know. I love what you're doing, furthering the kingdom. Such a cool thing to do, bro. Like, I would love to come back on for like a part 2, clear the schedule a little bit, dude. Have like longer to talk about this kind of stuff, because this is like life, it's life or death. Like, this is what this is, you know what I mean? So it's really cool to come out and talk about it to like-minded individual, but yeah, dude, thanks for having me, bro. This was sick.
No, thank you for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and see you guys next week. Thank you.
Yep.